The laugh track used to sound like safety. A television father kisses children goodnight, then dies with HIV on his death certificate. A legal icon invents dead wives and a dead son while the man he loves waits off camera. A sitcom husband begs for normal, then tells the truth when illness comes. The camera loved the room. It never followed these men home. Before we start, drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from right now. Robert Reed. Mike Brady came home each week to television's ideal household, 6 children, a loving wife, and a house built for reassurance. Robert Reed played that father on The Brady Bunch from 1969 to 1974 and returned in reunion projects through 1988. The role made him a symbol of domestic stability. Then the episode ended. Off camera, Reed was carrying a life the scripts could never name. Born John Robert Reitz Jr. in Highland Park, Illinois, he was a trained Shakespearean actor who fought with creator Sherwood Schwartz because he wanted sharper writing. Florence Henderson later said he was an unhappy person and believed the strain of a double life fed his anger and frustration. Reed had once been married to Marilyn Rosenberger and had a daughter, yet the fatherhood he performed weekly was still not a life he could safely live in public. Near the end, friend Ann Haney reportedly collected his HIV medication under a pseudonym to protect his privacy. When Reed was dying in Pasadena in May 1992, he asked Henderson to tell the kids. His death certificate listed colon lymphoma, with HIV infection as a contributing condition. In April 2026, Eve Plum said it was never apparent to her, even as an adult. Mike Brady got the close-ups. Robert Reed got secrecy. Raymond Burr spent decades playing men the audience trusted completely. Perry Mason ran from 1957 to 1966. Ironside extended that authority into the 1970s, and Burr returned for Perry Mason television movies through 1993. On screen, he was moral certainty, the man who exposed lies and restored order. Then you look at the life that protected him. Born in New Westminster, British Columbia, Burr maintained one of old Hollywood's most elaborate false family histories. Public biographies claimed he had lost a wife in a plane crash, lost another to cancer, and lost a son, Michael Evan, to leukemia. Biographer Michael Seth Starr later established that those wives and that son never existed. The real relationship was with Robert Benavides, whom Burr met around the Perry Mason years and remained with for more than 3 decades. That makes the role almost unbearable in retrospect. America watched Burr expose deception for decades, while his own image depended on fabrication. Benavides gave up acting in 1963 and later worked behind the scenes on many Perry Mason movies. When Burr died of kidney cancer in 1993, he left his estate to Benavides and excluded relatives. Even his New York Times obituary initially repeated parts of the invented family story. Perry Mason found the truth every week. Burr left his in a will. Rock Hudson. By the time Macmillan and Wife premiered on NBC in September 1971, Rock Hudson had already spent years embodying polished American masculinity. As San Francisco Police Commissioner Stuart "Mac" McMillan, he traded flirtation and marital banter with Susan St. James's Sally across 6 seasons. The show was built on partnership as much as mystery. Viewers were watching a marriage. Susan St. James later said you could get the illusion he was crazy about you. That word matters. Born Roy Harold Scherer Jr. in Illinois, Hudson had long lived inside a studio-managed image. His 1955 marriage to Phyllis Gates has widely been described as a studio-arranged response to rumors about his sexuality. So when he played Mac McMillan, he was extending an old performance. That is what makes McMillan and Wife so haunting. Every episode gave him a loving wife, a shared home, and the domestic rhythm viewers accepted as natural. St. James later called him engaging, wonderful, friendly, and sexy, and said she did not know he was gay while they were filming. In July 1985, Hudson publicly disclosed an AIDS diagnosis. He died that October at 59. On television, the marriage looked effortless. Off television, the marriage had always been part of the set. Dick Sargent, may have been handed the most brutally symbolic role on this list. When he replaced Dick York as Darren Stevens on Bewitched in 1969, he became the suburban husband whose job was asking his wife to suppress what she really was. Week after week, Darren wanted Samantha to be normal, to blend in, to keep the neighbors comfortable. The metaphor was almost too perfect. Sargent, born Richard Stanford Cox in Carmel by the Sea in 1930, later said he understood Bewitched on a deeply personal level. His publicity biography even included a fictitious failed marriage to help him appear straight. A partner of more than 20 years died suddenly of a cerebral hemorrhage in 1979 and was never publicly named. Later, Albert Williams remained with Sargent through his final illness. In October 1991, while battling prostate cancer, Sargent came out publicly on National Coming Out Day. He said, "Finally telling the truth about who I am gives me more pleasure than any acting job I've ever had." Then came the line that defines his story. "Most actors wait until they're dead before they come out. I'm glad I did it now." In 1992, he and Elizabeth Montgomery served as Grand Marshals of the Los Angeles Pride Parade. Darren kept asking for normal. Sargent got 3 years of honesty instead. Jim Nabors brings a different ache because his story ends with grace. America first loved him as Gomer Pyle on The Andy Griffith Show, and then on Gomer Pyle USMC, where he carried 150 episodes from 1964 to 1969. Gomer felt like somebody everyone would protect. He was television comfort in uniform. Off-camera, Nabors built something real and mostly private. Born in Sylacauga, Alabama, he met Stan Cadwallader in Honolulu in 1975, when Cadwallader was a firefighter. They built a life that lasted 38 years, including years in Hawaii and time running a macadamia nut farm. Nabors later said he was not ashamed. It was simply personal, and for most of that time the law gave them no rights as a couple. He was not denied love. He was denied recognition. In January 2013, just after same-sex marriage became legal in Washington state, Nabors and Cadwallader married at the Fairmont Olympic Hotel in Seattle. Nabors was 82. He told Hawaii News Now, "We made our vows and that was it. It was to each other." The relationship was already real. The paperwork arrived late. When Nabors died in Honolulu in 2017, Cadwallader was by his side. Jim Nabors had waited 38 years for the simplest truth of his life to be recognized. Paul Lynde understood better than almost anyone how television could use a man's personality while refusing to acknowledge his life. He was Uncle Arthur on Bewitched, the center square on Hollywood Squares, and for one overlooked season in 1972-73, the literal sitcom father on The Paul Lynde Show. ABC asked him to play husband and suburban dad, the domestic role he could perform for cameras but not keep. Born in Mount Vernon, Ohio, Lynde carried damage that kept compounding. In 1965, James Bing Davidson, a young man widely described as a friend and companion, fell from Lynde's San Francisco hotel room window and died. The death was ruled accidental, but people close to Lynde said it haunted him. Years of drinking and substance abuse followed. He got sober in 1980, but not long enough to rewrite the ending. In January 1982, Lynde failed to appear at a birthday celebration. Friends forced their way into his Beverly Hills home and found him dead in bed. Reports suggested he may have been dead for as long as a day. UPI's summary was brutally blunt. He never married and lived alone. The coroner ruled it a heart attack. A friend later said the center square was the only place he ever felt completely himself. The safest room in his life was not a home. It was a game show set. Richard Deacon built a career playing the kind of man television treated as the baseline of normal. He was Fred Rutherford on Leave It to Beaver, the suburban neighbor and family man, and Mel Cooley on The Dick Van Dyke Show, the pompous establishment figure whose dignity was always being punctured. Deacon once described his screen image as the executive in suit and tie, not at all flamboyant. That is why his story belongs here. Born in Philadelphia in 1922, Deacon understood what television wanted from him: structure, stiffness, the reliable straight man. But later accounts placed him in the same hidden social circle as Paul Lynde, Charles Nelson Riley, Roger C. Carmel, and others. Please Kill Me, drawing on the Charles Pierce biography From Drags to Riches, notes that Deacon attended performances at the Gilded Cage on Ellis Street in San Francisco. That contrast is the whole story. On screen, Deacon represented suburban order and office hierarchy. Off-screen, the available record suggests a more complicated reality than Mel Cooley's Suits and Fred Rutherford's neighborhood rituals could admit. When Deacon died in 1984 at 62, the official memories centered on the characters. The private man stayed mostly off-record. Professionally, he played the straightest man in the room. Personally, he understood the joke better than anyone. Joe Flynn requires caution because the evidence around his private life is thinner than it is for most of the men here. What is certain is his television image. Born in Youngstown, Ohio, Flynn became unforgettable as Captain Wallace Wally Binghamton on McHale's Navy, which ran from 1962 to 1966 and made him the blustering authority figure of a hit military sitcom. On camera, he was the establishment voice. Off camera, the clearest relevant account comes through one documented source, John Walraff's Charles Pierce biography, From Drags to Riches, later cited by Please Kill Me. That account places Flynn at the Gilded Cage gay nightclub on Ellis Street in San Francisco with a male companion, describing him within that circle as very open about his gayness. That is not enough to state his identity as settled fact, especially because Flynn also had a marriage and 2 children. So the irony remains, even with careful framing. The man playing Captain Binghamton may have been navigating a more complicated private reality than his screen image allowed. Flynn died in Los Angeles in July 1974 after drowning in his swimming pool at age 49. The record catches only a glimpse of the off-screen man. It is enough to make the television version feel lonelier. Roger C. Carmel is the strangest footnote in this history because his evidence must also be framed carefully. There is no direct public confirmation on record that he was gay. What does exist is association. Carmel was placed within the same documented closeted industry circle as Richard Deacon, Paul Lynde, Joe Flynn, and Charles Nelson Riley. So this chapter is not about certainty. It is about pattern. Born in Brooklyn in 1932, Carmel played Roger Buell on The Mothers-in-Law during the show's first season in 1967-68. The series was built around domestic life. Neighboring families, meddling parents, marriage, children, living room conflict. He was, literally, the sitcom husband. Then he was gone. Producer Desi Arnaz replaced him after season 1, officially over a salary dispute. The detail that matters is who replaced him. Richard Deacon, another man tied to that circle. That handoff is almost too perfect. 2 men from the same hidden world played the same husband on the same family sitcom, one after the other. Maybe that is all it is, an archival coincidence. But even as coincidence, it says something about the industry. Carmel's best-known role may still be Harry Mudd on Star Trek, yet for 26 episodes, he stood in a domestic set and performed husbandhood. He died in Hollywood in 1986, at 54. The public record never followed the rest of the story. Charles Nelson Riley is the one man here who found a way to fight the closet without exactly leaving it on the industry's terms. Born in the South Bronx in 1931, he survived the Hartford circus fire at 13. An event that scarred him so deeply, he later said he disliked sitting in audiences. Instead, he became the person everyone watched. He earned an Emmy nomination for The Ghost and Mrs. Muir, then exploded into mass recognition on Match Game. Early on, one network executive told him, "They don't put queers on TV." Riley's career became a witty rebuttal. The Advocate later described his ubiquity in the macho 1970s as a quiet revolution. On Match Game, he would drop his voice, call himself Chuck, and announce that he was very butch. Millions laughed. Some got the joke, many did not, but he kept making it in plain sight. Riley met Patrick Hughes backstage at Battlestars in 1980, and Hughes remained his partner until Riley's death. In a 2002 Entertainment Tonight interview, Riley said he had never purposely hidden being gay from anyone. Later, his stage work made the truth unmistakable. When Riley died in 2007, Hughes confirmed the death to the New York Times. Unlike the others, Riley did not bury the truth. He smuggled it onto television and made America laugh first. The laugh track promised warm houses and solved endings. Which hurts more, never saying it or saying it sideways for decades? Thanks for watching Hollywood Lost Secrets. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell for more untold stories.